I feel like our device is a portal. It's a portal to other dimensions. All the other dimensions are around us all the time. It's not just like you have to travel to another dimension. Another dimension is just a different vibration, a different radio station, if you would. And we have, with this tool, the ability to have a tuning knob and change what we're able to perceive, alter our perception. And if you really work with it and you do deep work with the lamp, there's no ending to what can be seen. I have an extremely psychic friend who won't go under the light because she says there are always these super chatty fifth dimensional beings that want to ask her questions.
Well, folks, I might be interviewing the most multisyllabic guest I have interviewed in quite some time, Raffaele Gianfrancesco. Raffaele, that's Italian, no?
100%, yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I'm on the right track then. I'm one for one today. So here's how I met Raffaele. This is a funny story. I was at an event in Austin, Texas. It was one of these health conferences where I'm just like on my feet all day long, signing books and giving talks and doing panels and, chatting with folks and trying out new technologies. And I'll usually hit like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a conference day like that and just be feeling kind of thrash. You also have the late night parties and your circadian rhythm is disrupted. And inevitably I'm kind of looking around the expo, is there something here that I could just like check out and, leave the world behind, kiss the world behind for a little bit and just go to La La Land. I always have a eye mask and a set of over-ear headphones in my bag. And I have been known to just tuck into a corner and climb under a table and fall asleep. But somebody pointed out this booth to me that had a light, a light that you lay underneath with your eyes closed and the light shines at you. And somebody told me it was the most incredible experience they'd ever had. So I was like, all right, I'll go check this thing out. So Raffaele was the guy at the booth, and this light's called the roXiva, ROXiva. So I lay under it, and Raffaele, I don't know if you remember this, but you played a session on the roXiva called Rebirth.
Oh, yeah.
And, now I own a roXiva, and it's still one of my favorite sessions of all time. But the best way I can describe it is I was like whisked away, and this is going to sound really weird if you haven't experienced this before, but I'll try to describe it as best I can. You're whisked away into like this primal environment where you feel as though you're in your mother's womb. You can hear the fetal heartbeat, the whooshing of fluids. It's kind of dark but peaceful and calming. And it was about a 45-minute session, and I was completely almost like out of body the whole time. And then it crescendoed towards the end where it basically simulated an entire birthing process as you're coming down the canal and the lights are shining and this epic heroic music begins to play. And as it crescendos and then finally ends, I sit up. My whole system felt completely rebooted. It was highly emotional too. Now that I've done it in the comfort of my own home a few times and I'm not embarrassed in public, I haven't not done it and sat up crying while simultaneously feeling like I could just take the world by the horns and crush my day. And so I knew I was onto something. At least Raffaele was onto something. We had a chat at the booth. I learned a little bit more about the light. I knew I had to get him on the podcast, but I also got one of these lights, and it's in my basement now. Raffaele, I don't know if I've told you this, but my favorite time to do it is I get up about 4:30, 4:45 a.m. I go downstairs when my brain is still in this post-sleep theta brainwave-like state. I sit on the roXiva, and I'll do anything from a 20 to a 60-minute session, and it's an incredible way to start the day. Every friend, every biohacker, every podcast guest I've had over to my house and sat in this thing has been absolutely blown away. And some people who haven't messed around with technologies, I had one guy, a friend of mine, Ryan, he sat up, he's like, that's the weirdest, coolest experience I've ever had in my life. And so there's obviously a lot going on here with the light, with the over-ear headphones, and with the sound. So I figured we'd just geek out on the roXiva and this whole idea of shifting your brain state using light and sound today, if you're game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to put a finer point on it, yeah, we are definitely shifting our brain state. But what is really happening most importantly is that we are sending your soul and your being back to a place of awe and wonder to really reboot the nervous system. And it's something that just doesn't happen for people anymore. We just don't get those opportunities to really stand in awe and wonder as much. And that's why people are really seeking that out all the time through peak experiences. And we've got something here that can provide it.
Yeah. And some people check out with things like sensory deprivation, float tank or a hyperbaric chamber or a dark cave experience. This is definitely not sensory deprivation, but yet at the same time, you completely forget the entire world and leave it behind as you're doing one of these sessions. And Raffaele, I used to be into plant medicine, psychedelics, mushroom journeys, things like that. The other interesting thing is this flips the switch as though you'd taken mushrooms or vaped a little DMT or something like that. But none of the drugs, none of the chemicals, none of the weird entity-like experiences, none of the post-session, fatigue or malaise or need to rebuild neurotransmitters. And, even though I'm not saying that I want people to put something in their basement that lets them do drugs without drugs, because you may want to reassess your priorities if that's your goal for using this thing. It is very interesting that it seems to trigger some of the same pathways as something like a psychedelic or entheogen might.
That's exactly what happened with me. I had gone several years ago to a retreat where I did Bufo, and for those that don't know, that's the toad. It's one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, entheogens and psychedelic drugs available, and it's basically the venom of the Sonoran desert toad, and you vape it and it just immediately just rockets you out of reality into the unity. Everything just goes completely white. You have a thought like, oh God, I've really done it. I'm dead, literally, while you're going into it. And so this was one of the most profound experiences I had ever experienced. And I don't recommend it for everybody. It's heavy duty stuff and don't approach it lightly. But after having done that, I didn't do any psychedelics for a while. And somebody approached me with one of these lights. And so I was able to do a session on it, and I went right back to that place of unity, to that place of pure white light and oneness. And I said, wow, this is really something. To be able to return to that deep a state without ingesting any substance at all, it just blew my mind.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible. By the way, don't lick a Sonoran desert toad. My sons, Raffaele, they have a 10-day vision quest as a part of their rite of passage into adulthood that they do directly before their 17th birthday. And their rite of passage is actually in the Sonoran desert. So I'll be warning them about licking any toads in their plant foraging adventures down there.
I mean, imagine the first person to discover that, really? Like,
or they, it was probably an accident. They were probably like starving and looking for something to eat and accidentally ate a toad or something. And their friend witnessed the chaos that ensued. So how do you describe the roXiva light to people?
So there's a few ways to describe it. The number one way that I describe it is that it is a tool that you can use to alter your state. And when I say alter your state, I mean expand it as well. We live in a very narrow bandwidth these days with our devices, with our televisions, with our work. And so everybody is just kind of trotting along through life, a little bit soul sick, really. We've lost our connection to earth, many people, and we don't have that kind of feeling of satisfaction that we get from being connected to earth and spirit. And so this tool, the light, allows you to be able to go on journeys that range from non-sleep deep relaxation, NSDR, which is basically all of the benefits of sleep without actually being asleep, all the way up to the highest gamma frequencies, where the Tibetan monks that do 40 years of Zen meditation training, only they can achieve those brainwave states. And we've been able to show using the EEG that we can get regular folks there within 5 minutes. So it really is a very powerful tool for being able to expand the mind and create states of extremely high neuroplasticity and journeys of just beautiful experiences.
I didn't realize you'd done EEG measurements on people using this thing.
Yeah, we have. We've got a few the neuroscience folks that have the lamp. Dr. Jeffrey Tarrant of the Neuromeditation Institute down at the Monroe Institute, they've got EEG equipment. And so we've been measuring, and part of the development process of all these products was to basically take the signatures of these extraordinary realms of brain states and see if they could be duplicated. And that's how it all really started.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and there's so much that happens almost as soon as the light goes on, as far as the rapid switch of the brain. Because I've done yoga nidra, non-sleep deep rest. It takes you a little while to drop in. Usually, for me, if I'm doing a 30-minute session, it's a good 6 to 10 minutes. With the light, within 30 seconds, I'm just automatically there. For people who have a little bit more of an engineering mindset, who want to understand the mechanics behind this thing, describe the light to me from a more mechanical standpoint, like how it's actually built and what the features of it are.
Okay. I'm going to do that in a second, but before I do that, I want to respond to something you just said. The reason that you go so deep so fast is that we have been able to show on EEG an automatic drop in alpha. And alpha is the binding frequency for the default mode network, the HPA axis, everything that gives us our sense of personality and who we are and those perseverating recurrent thoughts. So that's why you're able to drop so deep so quickly, because that alpha just gets dropped right down immediately. The brain goes, whoa, what's going on? And it gets really busy really fast and forgets to think about who you are. So that's that. All right. Now, what is the device, physically? So I'm going to pull mine over here. All right.
Oh, perfect. And by the way, real quick, for those of you wanting the video, if you're listening to the audio, just go to bengreenfieldlife.com/roXiva podcast. It's spelled ROXIVA, bengreenfieldlife.com/roXiva podcast. I'll link to all the show notes and then also to this lamp. So go ahead, Raffaele.
All right. So you can see there's 16 individual LEDs, and you see there's a little different tonality here. These are orangish and these are a little yellow greenish. So these are cool white and the orange ones are warm white. So we've got an equal number of both, which gives a fully balanced light spectrum. So we're able to address these in groups of 4 across the face of the lamp and do different frequencies that are in harmonics and coherence, and sometimes that are clashing with each other depending upon the effect that we're going for. So these lights flashing through your closed eyelids cause you to go into a state of high neuroplasticity and trance, and what we call hypnagogia. Hypnagogia is that place where you were describing at 4:30 in the morning, that liminal state between sleep and wakefulness. You go through hypnagogia on your way into going to sleep at night and then on the way out of coming to sleep at night. And that's why even the Monroe Institute recommends that if you're going to do these exercises that they have, that you do them at those times when you're already primed for it. Okay. But we are very unique in our approach because there are other light-based devices out there, and some of them are decent, and some of them are not as good. But our approach is really unique because we approach it from a content aspect. And you said it perfectly when you described what you experienced at the show with the rebirth session. We build our sessions to be a journey, to be epic in proportion, not to be just like kind of a little pinhole of an experience. And we have sound architects and light architects that work together to really create these peak journeys. And it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort because it's all manual. But when you get those things synced up perfectly, the light and the sound happening together, when there's a dark sequence in the light and the sound drops off, and when you even have the opportunity to add vibration support, which we have, so we can work with any vibration, tactile feedback, vibroacoustic bed, the shift wave chair that you have, any of those, we really have something that is truly unique in the market that has capabilities that are unparalleled.
Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of light sound producing devices out there. I've talked about a headset called the Brain Tap before, and it's great. It's got a bunch of different recipes on there for modulating back pain or for meditation or breath work. But the best way I can describe the difference is that a unit like that is kind of like streaming a movie on your laptop at home with maybe a set of earbuds, whereas the roXiva I would describe like going to a surround sound movie theater experience with a vibrating massage chair that you're sitting in while you're watching the movie, fully enveloped with all the senses engaged. So both are useful, but I think the roXiva is something I would describe as a little bit more of the big guns. This idea of vibration is interesting, and this is something that isn't necessary, I think, but is super interesting. You mentioned this shift wave chair, and it's a chair that allows you to put on a heart rate monitor on your fingertip, measure HRV. The chair vibrates in correlation to your nervous system, or if you hook it up to audio, to any audio track that you're listening to. And that's exactly what I did. I have the outbound AV cable from the roXiva lamp plugged into my shift wave chair input. And so I can do a roXiva session and at the same time have full body haptic sensations that are vibrating in correlation to the light sound frequencies from the lamp.
That's really important because what we're trying to achieve is we're trying to achieve whole body wellness and states of engagement that allow us to transcend our normal everyday living experience. And when we're talking about working these modalities together, we're incorporating not just visual and audio stimulation, but actual cymatics on the cells of the body, where everybody knows that we are at least 3/4 water in terms of our composition. And that water is all over our body. It's in our brain, in our cerebrospinal fluid, it's in the cells, it's in our tissues, everywhere. And so it has been shown that if you introduce the right frequencies to these systems, that you can get them to resonate in beautiful ways and support healing.
Now, one thing, I think it's a term I saw thrown around on your website that I was curious about, is this concept of entrainment. I think I saw the words brainwave entrainment and audiovisual entrainment as a couple of things you've written about. How do you describe that to people?
So entrainment happens all the time. Entrainment is a term that basically means things lining up together, syncing up together. So to give an example, entrainment occurs with binaural beats. Okay, albeit on a lower level, binaural beats are a form of entrainment, and it's really using the frequency following response of the brain to allow for an altered state to occur. So when we present these signals and the light pulses to the brain wants to understand what's happening. It wants to follow them. And so it basically just starts resonating with them. And entrainment happens in front of a fire when you get a bunch of people around a fire and they're all just standing around at the fire. Entrainment happens at the beach when you can entrain with the waves crashing in on the shore and get very, very relaxed. On another kind of, more practical human level, entrainment can happen with our bodily cycles. It's been proven that women, if you get a lot of women living together in a closed confinement area in the same home, that their monthly menstrual cycles will line up and they will entrain. So it's kind of our nature as humans to try to become a part of our environment and resonate with it.
And so the lamp is basically allowing the brain to engage in some form of entrainment itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Now, this rebirth session that I did, describe that one to me. I'm just fascinated in terms of the history of that. Who thought of that, and what's the actual goal of that? Because again, like I don't want to go on for too long about the rebirth thing, but I've literally done that session like 12 times, and it's just incredible, man.
Yeah, it's still one of my favorite sessions as well. And so the idea is that, and you've said it perfectly, that these boundless, these journeys, initiation, all of that, we are these beings that spend such a long time in gestation, becoming ready to enter the world. And during that gestation period, we are taking in the hormonal and the chemical effects that are coming from the mom's body. The female that is carrying the child is basically transferring all of this information through, and there is even they've shown the effect of playing certain types of music for the unborn child. So we're all kind of receiving all this stimulus in the womb, and what our session designer Lance and our sound architect Gavin did was create as close to the experience of being in the womb as possible, even going as far as using the isochronic tones, which are the low frequencies for vibration, to create movement in the pulses that might occur with being in the womb. And so most of the session is that state, which is basically a theta type hypnosis state where you're just kind of, and it borders on delta, which are really slow waves as well, which are the deep sleep waves. And so it's causing you to just go really deep, really internally, and just become lulled into this beautiful place of feeling nurtured and held and swaddled, really. I love doing it with a heavy blanket on as well. So that's another thing I add to it. I put a heavy blanket on. So now I'm completely enclosed, and it adds so much to the experience.
By the way, I'm glad you brought that up. I have one of those infrared sauna blankets that I put on warm setting, and it's kind of heavy itself, and I pull that over me.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, we do, as I said, most of the experience is that, but it was, they were thinking when they were designing the session, like, well, how do we end it? Well, how about we just emerge out of the birth canal, like just represent that.
That's where you're supposed to go at some point anyways.
Exactly. So the emergence, the re-emergence, the rebirth. And so if you go into a session like this with an intention, and I always recommend, just like with psychedelics, intentionality. What are you doing this for? What do you want to emerge from the experience gaining? So, if you really set that intention for how do you want to be reborn? How do you want to show up in the world? So you hold that through the whole time. You don't need to repeat it the whole time. You just set it and just go with the experience. But when you emerge from that birth canal, and it is gorgeous. I mean, as you said, they used, and this is our gift as a company, that we have the best designers that can create those emotional feeling tones, that rising kind of, oh, what's happening? Something's happening, something's changing. And then, oh, this is big. Something big is coming. And then, now you're rumbling down the birth canal, and then you just burst out into this gorgeous light, and it's a little scary, and here you are again. So that really was the intent the whole time, is to recreate the experience of being born.
Do you find that you come out of that session with brand new ideas, almost like a feeling that you've pushed the reboot button and literally had a kind of like mental rebirth in a way? Mm-hmm. Because back to the plant medicine thing, I've worked with some practitioners who expertly combine music, certain substances, everything from sassafras to psilocybin or psilocin to LSD, etc. And you have this incredible, 4 or 5 6 up to 8 hour experience, and you're dictating and you finish and the portals are open and you're writing, and then you're just toast for like 5 days, right? Useless to the world. And, and you're sweating and pooping all this stuff out of your system and replenishing B vitamins and methylated compounds and glutathione and trying to bring yourself back to the world. Mm-hmm. This session is 45 minutes long, and I sit up from it and have the identical effect. Like, I am ready to tackle the world full of new ideas. I have a journal right by my roXiva. I'm writing down new business ideas, breakthroughs, thoughts. It even gets to the point where I'm seeing sometimes, and not just with the rebirth process, but many of the other sessions, I'll see like visions, have memories from childhood that I've forgotten. It's pulling all sorts of stuff out of me. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and again, a lot of what you described earlier on was the fact that a lot of these compounds are toxic to us. There's a toxicity level that is creating the effect in our bodies. And so we have to process through that toxin after the initial experience happens. Every time I do mushrooms, I end up with a little bit of a headache for a while, for a day or so, and I feel really sluggish. And so, yeah, it's allowing for the same energy to occur without needing to have that physical challenge to our system. And it's wonderful because I work with a lot of organizations that work with PTSD and military folks and people that are in law enforcement, and they can't take these substances. They get drug screened. And so they're afraid to take them, A, because they would get in trouble at work, or B, maybe they've been sober for 5 years and they're afraid that taking a psychedelic substance might flip some switch that may make them want to start using again.
Yeah. And obviously the benefits go beyond just personal breakthroughs, generation of new ideas, or deep relaxation. For example, some of them are just fun. I think another word I saw thrown around on your website when I was researching the lamp is cyberdelic.
Mm-hmm. Cyberdelics, yeah.
Describe that to me.
Cyberdelic is a term that basically denotes psychedelic effects using technology.
Oh, kind of exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what it means. So instead of using the analog, the organic analog, we are using technology to get us there.
And tell me about the sessions, because, this whole idea of tweaking brain chemicals without necessarily taking drugs is something you'll hear a guy like Wim Hof talk about, the breathwork practitioner who I think he even says, like, getting high on your own supply. This idea of pairing the light with breathwork. You have specific sessions that involve guided breath, yeah?
We do, and we're coming out with more all the time. We basically we're riding that line between science and woo, if that makes any sense.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah, and really, I mean, that's the key, because we know for a fact that the light, even though your eyes are closed, is entering through your closed eyelids, but your pineal gland is right in here as well. And it does have photoreceptors on it. And our cerebrospinal fluid that flows all through our nervous system has photoreceptors in it. So we know that there is a need for light in our system, that light is a communications tool, that light is information. The sun is providing the information to our solar system every minute that allows us all to exist. So light is, in my opinion, the most powerful modality for communication.
Now, I noticed, speaking of light, there's a night mode on the lamp. You can kind of decrease the brightness. I actually like to do that if I'm doing an early morning or an evening session. I find it's just a little bit more relaxing. But I've had a couple of people ask me, and I think this is a reasonable question, if this thing is producing white light, even though your eyes are closed, obviously it's penetrating the eyelid a little bit, do you get concerned about sleep disruption? Because, people talk about the white light and blue light being able to suppress melatonin's activity on the cell receptor. I've never experienced that, but I'm just curious how you tackle that idea.
Well, the night mode is how we do that. As I mentioned, the lamp has 16 LEDs, 8 warm and 8 cool. When we turn on light night mode, we don't use any of the cool LEDs. We only use the warm LEDs. So the
Okay.
warm light does not trigger that blue light response. It's just like when you have that night mode on your phone or your computer where it goes a little orange.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Now, I mentioned that I'll sometimes see visions and shapes and objects. And this is something else people have commented to me. They're like, well, when I open my eyes, all I see is white. But when I close my eyes, there's like a million different colors, shapes, objects, and even visions. How is it that I'll see something like me hugging my mom and dad while I'm doing the rebirth, but it seems as though the patterning of the objects of me with my parents is being produced by the light?
So there's a couple of things happening there. We are using the physical structures of the eyes and the occipital cortex to create the sacred geometries, the kaleidoscopic effects, the amazing colors that you can't find in any crayon box. But there is a further way you can go where you start to look into the light and then past the light. And so what ends up happening is, and this has happened to you because of what you've just described, is you can go into full on hallucination or journeying where you don't even see the light anymore. So
yeah, that's exactly what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really what's happening there is you've gone through the tunnel. So, I mean, I'm going to go woo a little bit here, but I feel like our device is a portal. It's a portal to other dimensions. And, all the other dimensions are around us all the time. It's not just like you have to travel to another dimension. Another dimension is just a different vibration, a different radio station, if you would, and we have with this tool, the ability to have a tuning knob and change what we're able to perceive, alter our perception. And if you really work with it and you do deep work with the lamp, there's no ending to what can be seen. I have an extremely psychic friend who won't go under the light because she says there are always these super chatty fifth dimensional beings that want to ask her questions.
It's a little spooky. I question whether those are entities in the room or entities on board. For me, it's always memories and past experience. I've never encountered like the purple fairy or a praying mantis or a lot of these things people report from plant medicines. I suspect, again, we're going to go deep woo here. I suspect it's because I am a Christian. And so, I basically have kind of forbidden a lot of those entities from being a part of me or from being possessed by them. So I've never really experienced something like that, now that I'm connected fully to God and in a good place spiritually. But yeah, I mean, I would not deny that you could somehow cross a portal or a dimension, even using something as simple as light and sound without using what has traditionally been used to cross those portals, namely, entheogens.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Now, creativity. I've been hyper creative after one session in particular, the one called roXiva K. Can you describe that one to me?
Yes. So roXiva K is modeled after the dissociative chemical ketamine. And so ketamine is shown to basically take the emotional charge out of traumatic experiences. So all of these ketamine clinics that are injecting people with ketamine are basically putting them into a state where they are able to re-experience without harm bad things that have happened to them and reframe them and reprocess them. And so if you're in that dissociative state and you're emotionless, then you have the possibility of anything being on the table, anything being available, no preconceptions, no fears, right? When you're in a state like that, you're going to come up with ideas that you might not have because that inner dialogue that's always trying to keep things under control is going to limit them.
Okay, got it. So that's why I would come out of a session like that and feel hyper creative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I'm part of the Facebook group, which you get access to if you have a roXiva. You get access to be able to download new sessions and read about more sessions, delve into the science, and be a part of this group. Some of the sessions on the lamp don't have audio associated with them.
Right.
And then I asked in the group, because I was looking at the one called, I believe was No More Insomnia.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted in the group, well, what audio do you like to play with that? Because you can select from audios that are pre-programmed into the lamp, but then I could connect it to Spotify or Pandora or, downloaded YouTube videos or whatever and play any sound I want. And someone recommended me a great playlist on Spotify. It was actually called No More Insomnia. I think they designed it to be associated with that track. But what's with the insomnia thing? Did you guys find that it was helping people with sleep? Did you design it to be done at night when you wake up in the wee hours, or how does that one work?
We've actually come up with an entire better sleep series on our website. You can actually look that up on the roXiva website, not even the VIP private one for owners, but the actual roXiva website. Just Google roXiva Better Sleep Series, and you'll see a series, I think, of 3 or 4 lengthy articles that Lance Carter wrote. And what we've done is we've come up with a protocol where we've got a few programs that utilize the sleep frequencies and sleep aiding frequencies. One is called Silent Night, which you can do right before you go to bed. The other one is called No More Insomnia, which you do earlier in the day. And we're doing a couple of things with the No More Insomnia program. First of all, we're resetting the circadian rhythms because of the power of our lamp, because we have 16 high-powered LED sources, we can create more lux than any other device on the market.
You said lux, L-U-X.
Lux, which basically is a measurement of light power. Like the sun has the most lux, and then a match has much less. So what I'm getting at when I use the word lux is, one of the main things that everybody in sleep hygiene and sleep science says is the first thing you need to do as early in the day as you can is get outside and get sunlight in your eyes for at least 5-10 minutes at least, because that resets your circadian rhythms for the day so that we get tired at the appropriate time at night and we start drifting down into that sleep state. So if you live in a place that you don't have access to sunlight early in the day, or if you get up really early like you do, or if it's wintertime, and here where we are now for the next 3 weeks until the solstice, the sun is lower and lower and lower in the sky, you don't get that powerful sunlight. So if you use these sessions, you can get that light exposure, which is why we've even created a program called SAD Relief, SAD, Seasonal Affective Disorder.
Okay, so No More Insomnia, better early in the day because that's simulating more of the natural light exposure. And then if I wanted to use the Better Sleep series correctly, I would do the Silent Night before bed.
Correct.
How long is the Silent Night one?
I'm not sure. I think it's about 30 minutes.
Yeah, I know the No More Insomnia is 30. I think you're right because I've played it a couple of times. Yeah, I think it's 30 minutes. Now, you mentioned hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Are there sessions that are specifically designed for that effect? Because I feel somewhat hypnotized when I do all of them, but I'm curious if there's ones that are specific to hypnosis and what the idea behind that is.
Yeah, we've got hypnagogic sessions that run in that hypnosis range of frequencies. We have trance, TRANCE formation, which is a hypnosis session, and we've got some guided hypnosis sessions, and there are more guided hypnosis sessions coming as we go along, as well as we're going to be creating more yoga nidra type sessions for people that are having difficulty sleeping, so they can pop one of those on if they're having trouble sleeping. But the most exciting thing about the hypnosis aspect of the roXiva is that because we have the onboard audio, I have been able to teach folks how to use a simple program like GarageBand or Audacity on the PC. GarageBand is on the Mac, to create an audio track of you or somebody else's voice reading affirmations or suggestions, then pairing that with an audio background and importing it to the roXiva to run with at the same time the trance sessions or the hypnosis sessions. So you could really become your own hypnotist with this device.
And I could do that because obviously I have a whole podcasting setup. If I wanted to tell myself certain things and play certain tracks, it's not going to mess up the science of the light for that not to be designed for the audio to be occurring at the exact timing of whatever session I run. What I mean by that is, let's say I wanted to do, I don't know, Silent Night, and I'm going to produce some affirmations like I sleep deep, I rest peacefully, and I wake refreshed. And I record that, and then I transfer it into the roXiva with some music that I like and I find relaxing. I could just play the Silent Night light frequency and play those tracks I recorded in the background.
Yes. And I recommend things like white noise, pink noise, brown noise, ocean waves, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. So this is pretty cool. You and I were talking, and I was inspired about this by the Rebirth, about this idea of a hero's journey, right? The ordinary world, the approach to the innermost cave, the crossing of the threshold, meeting with mentors and allies and enemies, and an ordeal that you go through, and then a resurrection and a return home with the elixir, and this whole cycle that movies like Star Wars and most of the Disney cartoons and the Rocky series are all based on, Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia. Almost every series follows this hero's journey, as though it's all this idea of adventure followed by redemption and salvation is somehow built into our DNA. Perhaps, again, back to me as a Christian, the story of Jesus Christ as the ultimate hero's journey, a reflection of something like that. And I thought, what if you could do that using light and sound, like bring someone over the course of an hour using light and sound with the roXiva through an entire hero's journey inside their own mind. And so I approach you with that idea, and you and Lance and what's his name? Gavin?
Gavin.
Yeah. You guys kind of went to town with it.
Well, I have to say, I have to thank you for that, because when I received your email, and it was amazing, you did in fact lay out every step of the journey. Like, it was a long email with a lot of individual bullet points within each one.
Yeah, I get my ideas and I get up on my soapbox.
It was amazing. But that is the way you create something amazing, when you have a true vision before it ever happens of what it can be. And so when I saw it, I got really excited, because I'm a big fan of all of these quests and, Dr. Joseph Campbell, and I'm reading the Dune series again, which really was one of the first models.
Perfect example. Yeah, the child. What's the name of the main character, the boy?
Yeah, Paul Maudib. Yeah,
perfect example. Yep.
Yeah, and so when I read it, I said, yeah, and I'm getting tingles right now, like. I don't know. Can you see my few hairs standing up on end? Anyway, it really resonated for me. And so I ran to Gavin and Lance and Jimmy, the managing director of the company, who's intricately involved in all facets of our company. He was excited by it, and they just really, Gavin put together the soundtrack first. So generally the way we create sessions is we come up with the sound first, because we build the light on top of the sound. And so Gavin created this really moving, just kind of, and you heard it.
Yeah, I heard it. I've done it 3 times already.
Yeah. And so just sitting and listening to that and hearing your voice going through the steps in the version. So there's 2 versions. There's a version that has you introducing what's happening in the beginning and then kind of marking the transition points. And then there's a version without it, so that once you get comfortable with what's happening during the journey, you can just experience it and not hear your voice. So that was a great idea to do it that way. But just hearing your voice in the recording, because we had you record all those prompts, the first time with the music behind it sent me somewhere without even the light aspect being involved. But then when Lance added the light sequences, it just became epic. And really, this is what we are trying to do. We are not in a race to make the cheapest blinky light device on the planet. We are in a race to create epic content. We want to be the absolute best experience generating company out there. And that's our commitment. So you're never going to find a $500 roXiva device out there. It's not what we're after. We want to create impact and results on a grand scale. And you've helped us do that with this session. And we're going to use it as a model for a lot of new content going forward. And we hope to continue to work with you and make more and more.
Yeah. I went into my office. We had multiple recordings that went back and forth, and I was kind of testing some of the stuff that you sent me for this Boundless Heroes journey. The first time I did it, it's my voice walking you through each step of the journey with some little chimes as you transition to the next step of the hero's journey. And that was incredible. My son did it the other night and just loved it. And then the main thing for me is I sometimes find voices on little chimes distracting. They kind of pull me out of my deep state, especially maybe it's just because of my own voice too. It kind of distracts me. And so then I asked you if you could do it without the voices and the chimes. And that was just absolutely transformative. The way I recommend people do it is do the one, like you said, Raffaele, with the voices and the chimes first. So you kind of understand and wrap your head around, okay, this is the step of the journey that I'm in now. And then once you get accustomed to the session, I recommend you do it without the voice and the bells. I don't know if you've done it yet, Raffaele, without the voice and the bells, but it is probably besides Rebirth, it's one of my favorite sessions now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really, it's made us so excited to now, what can we do next? Where can we go with this? And we would like to create an entire epic journey. So I don't know if you've done Spaceship Dream yet on the lamp.
No, I don't think. I mean, we should tell people. By the way, I have an excuse. There's how many sessions are there?
150 plus.
Yeah. So no, I haven't done them all yet. What's the Spaceship Dreams?
Spaceship Dream is kind of like a sci-fi quest where you are going through a spaceship in space and you're moving from compartment to compartment and getting different experiences. And literally you hear the whoom of the door dropping and the light changes. And yeah, it's actually a cinema. It's the most cinematic in terms of the sessions that exist, in terms of the way one part flows into the other. It's a story.
It sounds like it might be a little bit like one that just rocked my world, The Calm Before the Storm, where it's super peaceful. Then you go through an entire lightning storm, speaking of the hair standing up, the hair on your arms is standing up, and you're not really relaxed. You're kind of pumped up and a little bit on the edge. And then it goes back into relaxation. So it kind of relaxes you, then builds you up, then lets you down as though you've literally just walked through a lightning storm.
Mm-hmm. And really, isn't that what life is? It's just one challenge and then one challenge after another, followed by some peaceful periods and then another challenge. And we're always, forced to stretch our soul to experience these fearful things and grow through those experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever taken any, obviously psychedelics would almost be too much for something like this, but any particular supplements or nutrients, dietary approaches, ketones, anything like that on the chemical side of things you've found to combine well with the light?
Yeah. I mean, I love taking cacao before doing a light session. Good ceremonial grade cacao is a heart opener and a mild MAO inhibitor. MAOI, monoamine oxidase inhibitor.
That's interesting you say that, by the way. I have a little adaptogenic cacao blend upstairs with reishi and ashwagandha and stuff like that. I'm going to write that down. I'll try this. Okay, so cacao?
Yeah. The MAOIs are what breaks up the DMT and the other chemicals in your system when you take it, because the body is always looking for homeostasis. So it wants to return back to a normal state as quickly as possible. So when you take any of these substances, the MAOs attack it. And when you take an MAO inhibitor, it prevents those MAOs from attacking it, which makes the experience deeper and last longer. There are, I don't recommend anything chemical with the lamp simply because it's such a strong experience in and of itself. But if you're the brave type, there are things that you could pair with it that would make it deeper. There's what's it called? It's called Kana.
Yeah. Kanna.
Yeah. That I've done with it, which was really nice. And, I'm going to say this, and I don't recommend it for anybody because, it's just something that, I was able to do at a ketamine clinic where I had my lamp with me, and I was at a ketamine clinic, and the owner said, they offered me a journey, and I did the journey, and I said, I want to do the light with it. And it was pretty potent with the ketamine, but I don't recommend that for anybody to just go and do. Ketamine is a controlled substance. Our device is very powerful. So
yeah, and I think that's prudent. I actually tried it once with ketamine, and it was too much. It was just, I didn't enjoy the experience at all. It was just distracting. I felt kind of lost the whole time. And this wasn't a mega K-hole dose of ketamine. It was just a little lozenge that is the amount typically described to be taken 1 to 2 times a day for something like depression or anxiety. But it was too much. I did use a hefty dose of ketones, which seemed to upregulate brain activity and provide really good fuel to neurons. And that actually worked pretty well, like a good full shot of ketones, about double the amount I'd usually take. I think I took a brand called Ketone Aid, which is a beta hydroxybutyrate. And that actually really enhanced the experience, being in a deep state of ketosis.
Yeah, because fasting is an altered state.
Right. You're basically fast tracking yourself to a similar altered state as fasting by mainlining ketones into your body. So that's interesting. And then any adaptogenic herb, reishi, again, ashwagandha, any of those seem to work pretty well, even though, I'll do it also with absolutely nothing. And you don't really need any supplements or drugs. That's what's super interesting about it. Now, I mentioned that, you can combine it with certain things, vibration, an infrared blanket, or like you said, a gravity blanket. I have a PEMF coil. PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field frequencies, use magnetic frequencies to shift your body. I have one called a Halo, HAELO. I have that. It's a little coil, about the size of, putting a small cat in your lap. I put that in my lap in meditation mode, and it just kind of sits in my lap, and I cradle it as I do the roXiva session. That one seems to enhance the effects. Anything else that you stack the roXiva with yourself, or have heard of other people doing?
So the red light mat, yes, absolutely. The aromatherapy can be very powerful. So things like lavender and camphor, camphor is the stuff they use in Vicks. It's got that mentholy smell, and so anything if you want to anchor a state, smell is a great way to do it, because you can basically get yourself into state, introduce that smell. They make these little nasal inhaler thingies that you can put essential oils on and just insert them into your nose or wave them under your nose. And so then every time you kind of smell that again, you can, and like an LP, you can.
That's a sleep tactic. I've talked with a couple of sleep practitioners about this, and a study tactic. If you're in a deeply relaxed state and you're able to smell something, and then you smell that same aroma when you're sleeping or before sleep, it can enhance sleep. So I could smell lavender, or diffuse lavender while I am doing a session like Silent Night, then take that same lavender up to my bedroom, and it would theoretically enhance sleep. This works for studying too. If you're studying for a test, sniffing peppermint, and then you dab a little bit of peppermint on your upper lip while taking the test, the olfactory cues enhance your recall. It's a whole fascinating field of science, this idea of olfactory pairing. So I haven't tried that before with something like essential oils next to the roXiva, but I will. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Some people may, because it's not inexpensive, like you mentioned. How much is it?
It's $5,500.
I was going to say $6,000. Okay, $5,500 for a lot of people, that's, of course, significant amount of change. If someone wanted to try it, do you have showrooms or places where people in certain areas could go to try it besides just some of the expos you randomly appear at?
Yeah, we have now or almost 1,000 lamps out there now. So generally, we have somebody near almost anybody in terms of being able to get them an experience. So if you are interested in learning more about getting an experience, just do the contact form on the website, and you'll be reaching out to me, and I will make sure that I pair you up with a practitioner that resonates with you. We don't want to do the just randomly letting people contact everybody, because that can get a little messy, and people don't want just random phone calls.
I don't want 100 people lined up outside my basement window waiting to try my roXiva.
Exactly. So, but we will respond quickly and team you up with somebody that will be eager to get you a great experience on the roXiva.
Incredible. It's pretty rare that I stumble across something I get this excited about when it comes to technologies that you just feel right away. It's like snap a finger, you feel it right away. From the very first time I tried it, I fell in love, not to blow smoke, Raffaele, and it's incredible. So bengreenfieldlife.com/roXiva podcast, ROXIVA podcast. I'll link to the roXiva. I'll throw in some of the other tools I use with it if you want to see what the shift wave chair or the red light or PMF coils or anything like that look like. And then, Raffaele, I'm hoping to see you at another health expo again soon. Hopefully you're there so I can sneak away and do my rebirth session.
Are you going to go to A4M in Vegas?
A couple weeks. I'll be there.
I'll be there.
All right. Well, I'll see you there, my friend. And
right.
Fantastic discussion. Thank you so much for helping to bring this thing to the world.
Excellent. So great talking to you. And I'm grateful that you had me on today.
All right, folks. I'm Ben Greenfield along with Raffaele Gianfrancesco from roXiva Light, signing out from bengreenfieldlife.com. Have an incredible week.
Do you want free access to comprehensive show notes, my weekly roundup newsletter, cutting-edge research and articles, top recommendations from me for everything that you need to hack your life, and a whole lot more? Check out bengreenfieldlife.com. It's all there. bengreenfieldlife.com. See you over there. Most of you who listen don't subscribe, like, or rate this show. If you're one of those people who do, then huge thank you. But here's why it's important to subscribe, like, and or rate this show. If you do that, that means we get more eyeballs, we get higher rankings, and the bigger the Ben Greenfield Life show gets, the bigger and better the guests get, and the better the content I'm able to deliver to you. So hit subscribe, leave a ranking, leave a review if you got a little extra time. It means way more than you might think. Thank you so much.